I have this segment called Pizzanomics where I'm going to relate this. And maybe you can get your culinary degree if you understand at the end of this.
Oh, I'm excited.
That is a lot of pizza.
I was very surprised.
Why are there 8 for 4 charts? Is what I want to know.
There's only 5 people here.
It's complicated. Welcome back, everyone, to the 12th episode of Adtopsy. This might be the best Adtopsy yet. I have a good feeling, and it's not because Barry's not here. No, we love Barry very much, but we have a packed episode with a great guest. We're going to start with an Adtopsy challenge brought by Dave. It's from the brand Bamboo Earth, and then we're going to do our first B2B Adtopsy. Not something we do a lot. The B2B space is sorely hurting for any creative ideas, so we'll see what happens there. And then we have one of my favorite segments, Explain That Tweet. And this one, I'm going to put Dave on the spot here. It's actually going to be a little bit more of a explain those charts. But I think
people love that.
That sounds riveting.
Well, I'll get into it a little later, but I think it's one of the most important topics that's actually not talked about in D2C. And then we're going to roll into a special segment off that I call Pizzanomics, which I look at basically the explain that charts, but from the viewpoint of making pizza. It's hard to explain. We'll get into it a little bit later.
Wow, I can't wait. Is it like an analogy? I'm so excited.
A metaphor, yes.
A metaphor. I'm sorry.
And if we have time, we're going to get to an Adtopsy on Kosas, the brand, on sale ads in particular. So as usual, we have our cast of characters. Dr. Erin Elliott, welcome.
Ooh, hello.
Myself, Dr. Jess Bachman. We have Just Rachel is also here. And Just Ike is also here.
Wait, when did we get stripped of our titles?
Last episode.
Oh, she wasn't even here.
Neither was Erin. Erin got it.
I got a doctorate. I wasn't even here, guys. So I don't know.
I was a little busy.
You need to apply every week. Certification is weekly here. And a very special guest, one of my favorites, Dave Recook. Welcome to Adtopsy.
Thank you. Oh,
Dave, why don't you let people know a little bit about what your deal is?
My deal? I spend too much time on Twitter.
Oh, you just have that comment.
You can find me there. I have a mild addiction. I can quit whenever I want. I also do, on the side, I do some e-commerce for Bamboo Earth. So I'm running Bamboo Earth, a natural skincare brand.
Awesome. Yeah, we talk a lot about skincare here on Adtopsy. It's like a recurring thing. I want to share my screen. We're just going to dive into it. Now we're going to start with the Adtopsy challenge from Bamboo Earth. Before we go any further, we have to do the requisite.
It's time for the Adtopsy challenge. Only true creative doctors will get it right.
Every time it gets me.
It's good. It gets better every week.
Thank you, Dave, for participating in the little dance at the end.
Yeah, I got into the festivities.
Okay, good.
So, Dave, you have 2 ads here, and am I correct that one of them performed better than the other?
Yes. One of them is an ad that just keeps on delivering and refuses to die. And the other ad refused to even take a breath. So, I had difficulty spotting between the two. So, yeah.
All right. So the first one's almost 2 minutes long. So maybe Bamboo Earth can pay us for this subtle sponsorship. But let's just dive into it.
$160 price point, and there's a reason for that. The main ingredient is prickly pear. We use it as the main ingredient in our intense hydration cactus concentrate.
This stuff, boy, let me tell you, it's amazing. It feels amazing.
What you experience is this luxurious, balmy texture, and really it melts into a serum upon contact with your skin, but it's absolutely glorious.
My skin is breaking out some, so I'm just gonna let this really soak in, and it will help with that.
It's super fast absorbing, so you're not left feeling greasy or heavy.
It's a really, really pretty color too, and it has such a cool texture. It like melts very quickly, and it's like, it's so hard to even describe. It just feels so good. And again, it smells really good too.
It gives the effect of a natural hyaluronic acid. It plumps, it firms, it brightens. It smells heavenly.
This just is so beautiful, and it's not oily. It dries beautifully, it moisturizes, and it's just fabulous. And again, the smell is so beautiful, so beautiful.
We use blue tansy essential oil, helichrysum, frankincense. It's just a wonderful combination of aromas that really make you feel like you've been to a spa. I highly recommend it. It's my most recommended product. So go check it out on our site by clicking the link below.
Interesting. Very serene. Okay, and here's the second ad, 50 seconds.
I am 45, so dark circles under my eyes is something that I'm aware of.
I want to age gracefully, and I love that Bamboo Earth stands for that also.
I'm now 60, and I'm still head over heels about Bamboo Earth.
This Eye Bright Serum I apply under my eyes. My goal is to reduce those dark spots and that puffiness. It's very soothing to me. I just love this product.
It is phenomenal. For puffiness in the small lines, a miracle. This little jar, big punch goes a long way. It's the mask.
And this has a divine smell.
But it feels great. It's really smooth. It's super moisturizing.
Bamboo Earth Eye Duo. Can't live without.
Well, I'm sold. Honestly. Honestly, I'm going to go get that. The Eye Duo. No joke. I'm pushing 40. I need something. And that looks good.
Okay, so we're gonna hold up one finger for ad 40 here, and then 2 fingers for ad 42. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Ooh.
Oh, what's gonna happen? I could lose my doctorate.
Aaron.
Or I could be the only one left with one.
You just got that doctorate, Aaron.
Dave, before you tell us which is the winner, I will say that this was not easy, particularly because I know how compelling the look younger ads are to older people. I mean, that stuff works. It doesn't even have to be good, and it works.
I think that's true, but we're inundated with that. It's almost like that's not a differentiator. The first one, I felt the differentiator so clearly of like the melt in your hand kind of thing. And that was like, I instantly kind of want to buy it because it's something new and kind of interesting. I also didn't get bored. I kept like checking in with myself to think, when am I getting bored? Am I getting bored yet? But every time they would say something kind of interesting, and I kind of liked that woman's like soft, warm VO. It felt very familiar and, like Jess said, very serene. I really liked that ad. The one thing I didn't love about it is the thumb stop was a little bit too product-y, but
it's kind of shocking, though, isn't it? I was kind of shocked because they led with that price. But go ahead, Jess.
Before we laud this ad too much, let's see how it does. So, Dave, why don't you tell us which one performed better?
Yeah, so Patient 40 was the one that has spent $300,000 or so this year, and refuses to die kind of thing. And then Patient 41 just never made it past the operating table. Just couldn't get off the ground. And I'm surprised because I think that Patient 41, a second ad, is a lot more of like your traditional problem solution that you would expect. And that's part of the reason why I picked it. I threw a decoy in there for you.
Yep. I agree. So one thing about Patient 40, which I think is interesting, and I don't see a lot, is the hook, being that why does this moisturizer cost $160? And I I bet that these ads do not go to a PDP that costs $160 because this is like price anchoring. And they probably go somewhere where it costs them much less and the conversion rate's probably higher or something.
Well, so interestingly, it's available in two sizes: a mini, which lasts you about 2 weeks, and it depends on your usage. So it could, like, some people stretch it out to 3-4 weeks, and that mini is only $28. The $160 product lasts like 5 months. I mean, there's women that are using this for 6 months because you really do take the smallest amount. So I actually am leading a little bit with a price here to almost shock or weed out to a degree. And that's like borderline, we thought about, is that on brand kind of thing? And people talk about that a lot. But
I'm just going to let this really soak in.
You're going to find out at some point that it's $160. And I really like you finding out in the first 3 seconds because it super helps filter and target.
You know? There's no sticker shock. It's like you get there and you're like actually pleasantly surprised when the small one's $28 and you're like, oh, at least I can try it first before I buy the 160,
And you've been sold on the 160 for like a minute and a half. You've been completely every barrier has been taken down in that video.
Totally. I mean, there's like 30 people worth of social proof saying how great it is. I think it just reinforces it, right?
And different types of women. Yeah.
That's a great point, Aaron. We think about that a lot, is like who we're showing when we're cutting, like that they're going through some variety that it represents. And in some cases you may want an ad that is targeted more towards just acne, because we have like the lady who talks about breaking out at like second, and we might like make an angle that's more about breakouts. But in this case, it was pretty wide variety, and it was about kind of taking what is a major objection is like, why is this $160? And then just literally a full ad dedicated to essentially making you believe it totally is.
One thing I like about this, and Rachel, you brought this up, where it's a longer ad, but I didn't get bored. And part of my editing brain was like, oh man, there's so much I could cut out of here to make it tighter or something, but it didn't need it. And one of the things that editors often cut out when they're trying to trim something down is the natural reaction. So I'm just going to play this woman's reaction one more time.
This stuff, boy, let me tell you, it's amazing. It feels amazing.
Start with like, it's amazing or whatever, but you miss this. This is like the most genuine part where she's like, and that's something that will not end up in scripts or something like that. And
And so just so you guys know, the other reason why a lot of our videos wind up with this kind of pacing, I was really curious to see what everyone thought of this, because I brought a video that is probably like half the pacing of a lot of the videos that we review on here. But I believe all of these are real customers that we source these from, not even UGC seeding, anything like that. It's just customers we emailed that are in our database, and they just set up and camera rolled. And so sometimes those are also especially the hardest to like cut into what you would call like more like a smash cut, where it's quicker edits, because you're removing them with their ums and ahs, and and that's what makes it, to some degree more genuine, real people using it,
this woman as well, just
totally
very
quickly, and it's like,
and the slower music
so hard to even
allows them to have a slower pace as well.
Totally. I want to go try this now. Like, it's making me really excited about trying a longer form. Like I bet your gears are turning too in terms of editing, and like that's really cool. The one thing I wanted to note was at second 10, Jess, where it's the 4x4. I love that. I don't feel like I see that all the time. I love that, and I want to use that also.
Yeah, we tried versions that skip the prickly pear squeeze, which is like almost like a second, like appealing visual, as well as the 4x4, and jumping right into like customer reviews. And this one continued to prevail.
So why this one didn't work, hard to say. Maybe it is like every age-defying thing looks exactly the same. I'm also like kind of irritated with the audio on a lot of this.
I am 45, so dark
like
circles
it's
under
just these nice chime tones going into what sounds like a fluorescent light is like on the microphone.
I am 45, so dark circles under my eyes is something.
Like some people, don't listen to sound, and people aren't actively picking that up, but I think the subconscious is picking up on that irritating tone and causing people to feel in a negative way while she's talking about the product.
That's really
also, I mean, like the cut here, if you had this acted out, it would never land exactly like that. This is a statement where you want to get that she's 45. She states that like under eye circles or something she's aware of. So it's perfect framing for the video, but the way it comes and the way it comes after that intro is definitely a little bit jarring. And you're at if you're working with real customer generated content, you are at the mercy of how they say
Yeah,
it.
for sure.
You can't go back.
I think what's interesting about that, Jess, is I got like a totally visceral feeling from the first one in the sense that it was like relaxing, calming. I felt like I was at a spa. There was never any of those like sort of jarring moments. You know what I mean? And now that you bring that up in the second one, it's like, yeah, that's so true. It's like, it's almost like it was trying to go for that. And then it like just didn't hit the mark because you've got these people kind of like coming out the gate with the...
Whenever it goes back to this woman, it goes back to that tone as well.
One other thing is it's also a newer product that we had significantly less UGC to pull from. So like the top one is our top seller. So we have just mountains, piles, right? So our editor can really go to work and play with that. A few people have mentioned the voiceover in the top one. That's our founder as well. So there's kind of like some authenticity and consistency that you'd see her on the site.
Oh, that's nice.
That face that you see at the end is also
kind of ties everything in it from the whole.
Yeah.
Cool. So now we're going to move into our first ever B2B ad unit. And this is also doubling off as a sponsor unit. 8Fig is a sponsor of ours. Dave, are you familiar with 8Fig? Okay, good. Because I'd love you to watch this ad cold and then tell me what the hell they do, So this, just for some context, this isn't something that I saw that they're running in their ads library. They have like 200 ads in there, and they're mostly they're not good. But they sent me this video as part of the marketing materials or something, and I was like, I'm not just going to run your video unless you allow me to like totally destroy it. So I think B2B is always interesting.
They must love you.
You're so happy to sponsor us.
Well, I'll caveat that the only reason, I wanted 8Fig as a sponsor, and the reason why, I said yes is because I do think their product is innovative and new and really helpful to small businesses, more so than the other stuff out there. But let's just watch this and see how it can be improved or something.
Hi, we're 8Fig. We're here to help you grow your e-commerce brand to its fullest potential. All it takes is 3 easy steps.
The 8Fig platform is a great way to grow your business and get funding. To sign up, just fill out some basic information and click Next. You'll then be able to access the rest of the platform and get started on your growth journey. The next step is to build your growth plan. You'll do this by adding all of your supply chain costs to a visual dashboard called the Line Lab. Add your various expenses from manufacturing to marketing, and leave the rest of the work to us. Once you complete your first line, you're just seconds away from having a full-fledged growth plan. Connect your store to our platform so we can provide you with an offer. We'll create a customized funding plan that works best for you.
Doesn't that sound neat? You won't ever have to worry about cash flow problems again. It's really that simple.
Okay. Dave, do you have a sense of what 8Fig does?
I think in the last 10 seconds, I figured out that there's some form of a cash flow or lending solution.
Yep. So you shouldn't have to get to the 40th of a 50-second video to understand that.
Right.
And one of the things that we say, like for all marketing, 80% of success is differentiating yourself and then building an emotional connection. And for some reason in the B2B space, this is just so hard for brands to do. And with an ad like this, it looks like they all look the same. They all have like the same animation type things going on, and they all have the same like hand clappy woo woo song. It's like there's someone searched for like B2B in some song database, and there's only two you can choose from.
I've used that exact song in several.
Oh my god!
It's from Artlist. I know exactly where it's from.
But I think my problem with it, the main problem I have with it is the first 10 seconds are entirely generic. Like, okay, so the store name is 8Fig, so I'm assuming that, or the brand name is 8Fig, so I'm assuming that you're targeting 8-figure stores, right? So, but the first 10 seconds open up as if like, hey, open up your Shopify store and get your first sale today.
Yeah.
Like, meaning like it feels like you're talking to somebody who has never sold anything on the internet, not somebody that sells $10 million a year or more and needs cash flow solutions. Like, so that to me is like, take like our $160 ad. It was like, here's your objection. Here's what I'm selling. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Like, okay. So like right up front, what are you selling? What's my pain point? And I like ads that self-target. So,
yeah, I would agree.
Are you rapidly growing, but cash is strangling you?
Mm-hmm.
Boom.
Right.
Here we go.
I mean, starting
now
with
let's
that
talk.
anxiety I think would be so effective, because that's something probably every founder or small business can identify with, is that sort of cash flow anxiety or whatever. So why not lead with that as the problem instead of the very last few seconds?
Yeah, it's a very interesting choice to lead with like the steps of signing up for 8Fig.
Yeah.
It's like I'm on step 3 and I still don't know what I'm signing up for. It's kind of confusing.
Sometimes that does work if it's compelling and it's interesting, because I think store operators they're looking for apps and solutions, and they're looking for stuff that maybe looks like this. I mean, that's kind of interesting. I kind of want to know what it is, but also a lot of B2B marketers, they're too familiar with their product. And so when they're like explaining it to other people, they're like, step 2 is create lines.
Yes, exactly. What lines?
Which
so yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off, but like this portion of it made me wonder. So we're like 20 seconds in. It made me wonder: is this cash flow planning software? Like I didn't know it was on the financial side. I was like, oh, did they build a visual 13-week model? Like, is that what I'm looking at here?
That's what I thought too.
This, like, right. And then later on, they're like, oh, the financing to help you grow. And it's like, oh, I see. So these are just the inputs to get me the money. Right? Like,
so I'll give my short pitch about 8Fig, and maybe you tell me if it's a little bit better. But there's lots of ways to get funding. There's lots of interesting ways to get funding these days for stores. You can even get funded like based off your ROAS or something from like Clearclo or whatever. That always feels a little suspect. Like I don't want funding that's tied to my ROAS. So what they do is like you go into 8Fig and then you map out a particular line from deposit to, freight, logistics, whatever, marketing, and you get the total cost for it. They will then look at that and fund just this line and nothing else. And you actually don't have to pay it back until 2 weeks after it's in the warehouse. So if like the barge gets stuck in, South America or whatever, you're not faced with like some due date, some payback date or something like that. And that's basically the crux of it. It's like funding based off lines versus anything else. And payback based off when the line arrives.
So kind of the full end to end of getting the product in my warehouse and selling it, like, is what the fun is.
So if you could sell pre-orders, you almost like never have to pay for anything,
right.
And that's it. That's 8Fig.
Damn.
All right. I like it.
That was a good line, Jess. If you can sell pre-orders, you almost never have to pay for anything. Now that's compelling.
That is compelling.
And so, I asked them like what their onboarding experience is, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, there's all these steps or whatever." And I was like, "The Adtopsy people need someone. They don't need a customer service team. They need like a person." And so here's Lamar. He's the head of customer service. Just email him, Lamar with 2 R's at 8fig. He will help you out with anything related to it at all.
Oh, he's my boy.
He's boy.
Thank you, Lamar.
Lamar's everyone's boy. So now we have one of my favorite segments. Explain that tweet.
Yes.
It's time to explain the tweet on Adtopsy. It's just like Twitter, but face to face.
That guy is endlessly talented.
So good. So good. We need to have him on the show.
He's a 4-time Jingle Emmy winner. So
I bet. I can tell.
Emmy, Grammy, but that's fine.
So this is one of my favorite tweets from Dave. I'm not going to ask Dave to explain it because it's like 80 tweets long, but the charts in it are important. And the reason why I think it's important is because this concept applies all over marketing. And also, I think one of the only solutions to help with it is creative. And this is a creative focused show. And so we'll get to that in my Pizzanomics segment. But I have 4 charts from Dave. And Dave, why don't you attempt to explain what these charts mean?
Yeah. So first one is just AMER. Some people call this ecosystem ROAS or blended ROAS or some form of that. But basically, the total amount of new customer revenue divided by what you spend, right? So how efficient is my spend in my whole ecosystem? It doesn't matter whether it's Facebook, Google, whatever. And just a lot of people know the basic idea that the first dollar that you put into marketing is generally more efficient than the last dollar that you put in.
This dollar versus this dollar. Yep.
Exactly. So basically it's diminishing returns in terms of what you can get back for your money. If a client said to you, "Hey, we're running at 100K a month. Let's just make it 200K a month. We'll be double as good." You'll be like, "LOL, that's not how it works." At 200K a month, we're making a much worse return on our ROAS. So this is basically just showing a chart that says, hey, your AMER gets worse the more you spend, all things held.
It's depreciating like a car, right?
Yep. No, that was the easiest chart. So what's going on here?
Yeah. So first of all, I just drew a break-even line, fictitious, I think like 60-70% margins, whatever I chose, that say like, okay, you're selling things at 70% margin. Where do you stop making money? So if you were to look at the blue line only, like we were on the last chart, that's essentially the blended, everything that is going out the door in terms of ad spend and everything that's coming back in terms of first-time customer revenue. And just on that blue line, you would say, we're good. We can spend $110,000 a month. We're still above break even. But if you look at this in terms of like each next $10,000 spent, so that's what the red lines represent. So the first $10,000 spent, you're sitting up at that 2.5 return. Then that next $10,000 spent, you're down at like, what is that? A 2.25, 2.3, and so on and so on and so on. And this is the same data set. But what you're doing is instead of looking at the $100,000 where you're at this blue point right here, just above the break even, you're saying, no. I don't want to know the whole $100,000 in terms of spend. I want to know, what did my last 10,000 do? When I went from 90 to 100, how did it perform? And it's that bar that you've moused over right now, Jess. And it's that bar is getting a 0.75. And it's like, oh, well, then I should have never freaking spent that, because we can universally agree that 0.75 sucks. Right. I'm not making money on it. It's well below my
a real world example of this, if we have a client where one of the KPIs is CPA, just all over CPA, which is similar to AMER. And so the CPA, our KPI is $10. And so a lot of times we'll get like through the first 3 weeks and the CPA might be $8 or something. And technically, if we want to hit that KPI, we can spend and for a while, and the CPA is like $15, but at the end of the month, it'll end up being $10. But that spend is going to be below this break-even point, right?
Right. That last week is so inefficient. Right.
Exactly. Those couple weeks you spent are losing money, and you just take the first 2 weeks where you were making even more money and blend them together and say, this is good.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how is this one different?
This one's a little bit different because I think it reflects the first chart was just an even, like, you just start decreasing immediately. But the reality is, especially like we go to Meta and we pump in money, it actually probably might even increase in the very early stages where you're like getting up to $500 or $1,000 a day so that you're feeding it essentially enough data that it is running efficiently. And then you can increase the budgets a little bit and you're like, oh, it's holding. I'm getting exactly the same. You know, I went from 500 to 1,000 and I'm still bringing home the same amount of money. And then it starts to tail off later, right? But an interesting thing about that is because you have that first $40,000, $50,000 spent is like very sticky to the 2.5, even though it starts to tail off really fast. The blended average really doesn't show that. You know, so we actually have the last $30,000 spent is all below break even, but the blue line is still way above the break even. So it's if you're not thinking about how did my next, you know, dollars do, you're probably spending money that is below break even and actually contributing losses to the business rather than
And the challenging thing is the blue line is what's in your dashboards, like Triple Whale, and the red line in it. And this is the chart that really lays it out, right?
Yeah, exactly. So marginal CM, so contribution margin. So a lot of people are familiar with gross margin, which is like how much you make when you sell a product. So we were assuming 70% gross margins. So I sell a product for $100, I make 70. Well, let's also back the ad spend out of that. And then that's contribution margin or direct ad spend. So they say direct ad spend because if you went and spent money on, let's say like a branding event that you're like, I don't really expect to get revenue directly from this, you wouldn't consider that for contribution margin. But Meta, you're looking at it saying, Meta, YouTube, Google, you're looking at it saying, I'm going to spend this money and I'm going to get this margin back in return. So that's contribution margin. So this really just shows that each dollar amount, each cohort of spend, each $10,000 of spend, here's the amount of margin that it actually produced. So if it's not producing above that zero line, it doesn't help you pay salaries, pay your fixed costs, pay your office, whatever. In fact, it's actually stealing from it at the 100,000, 110,000 cohorts. So beyond $60,000 here, you're actually producing a less profitable business overall. So you really ought to be, according to this chart, stopping your spend at 60,000.
So if you are watching and you understand this, I think you officially have an MBA. I don't know what the other requirements are, but I think
all I got out of that was don't spend more than 60,000. That's what I got out of that. Like,
well,
I don't know what to do.
Well, Erin, I'm sorry to say that your next show, you're not going to.
I know. I think I lost it in this one.
Sorry, I think you might lose your doctorate. And
Listen, I'm a production manager. I don't know what CPA, all that business is.
But I think this concept of diminishing returns, it's present in every ad account, and it's not in the dashboards either, which is makes it like this weird ghost metric, this shady metric. And I think particularly accounts at scale, when we see accounts at scale and they're struggling, I think the main issue is that the creative is not reaching, it's not varied and not reaching different pools of people. And I think each pool of people has its own area where it starts to dip. And so I have this segment called Pizzanomics where I'm going to relate this. And maybe you can get your culinary degree if you understand at the end of this.
Ooh, I'm excited.
That is a lot of pizza.
I was very surprised.
Why are there 8 for 4 charts? Is what I want to know.
There's only 5 people here.
It's complicated.
Complicated.
So we're going to start off with, let's say a pizza is like your spend, and then you have the efficient spend, and then the crust is the inefficient spend, sort of at the tail end of it.
Okay.
You can't. There's always going to be a crust. You can't have pizza without a crust. It's always going to be there, but the size of the crust or whatever is going to change, and the pizza is going to change. So, for example, the way this can get really inefficient is like if you're very quick about it and you spend too quickly, and it's like I'm mostly crust now or something. So that's one way that it could happen for sure. Or
that looks weird.
I've seen ad accounts that look like that.
Yeah.
Or if you just leave stuff going for like too long and you don't change stuff, and it's like burnt, and it's also like there's a lot of crust going on as well.
A lot of crust and it's burnt. That's bad.
Right. But the biggest issue I see is it's not varied, and this is very natural. It's a very natural human way of working to go with winners, go with what works. And if you sell ads and you're like, oh, you know what, pepperoni is the best seller, everyone's selling pepperoni, and you make ads with like a lot of pepperoni, and some people are like, that's not great, but everyone loves pepperoni, so you double down and you're like, oh, everyone loves pepperoni, so I'm going to make one of these. And then
I'd still eat that pizza.
That's disgusting. A meat slab.
And then Facebook or the platform has found everyone that is into pepperoni, and half of them are starting to get really turned off by this. And what's worse is that this can, like, because of the way that the data sort of collates, this can bias the entire ad account or the entire brand or a lot of stuff, and all of a sudden you become like the meat lovers brand, and that's not how pizza is sold generally. So here's a chart of the top pizza toppings that you like. Certainly pepperoni and sausage is on there, and anchovies, eggplant is at the bottom of the list. But the point is, if we assume all of these are like stores of revenue, and I can go after the pepperoni and sausage people with that, but all this other stuff is actually more than like the top three if you add them together. So I can go after the broccoli segment. It's not much, and there's going to be like a little bit of crust inefficiency with like broccoli related ads. But if you try and put all this revenue into these top three things, it's going to be a disaster. It's going to be incredibly inefficient, and you're going to lose out on revenue. So scaling an ad account with creative is finding other people. And it's not just toppings; it's like other types of hooks. Even if they're less efficient, like pepperoni slays at like a 2.0 ROAS or something, and the pineapple is like 1.7. That 1.7 is new people. I don't know what the MBA term for it is, but it's new revenue that you're not going to find with these ads up here. And then so this applies. This is like different states, like different types of toppings. So you can get very specific, but the point is not that everything in Facebook is messy, and you're not going to make an ad for anchovy people and just do that. People like a lot of different toppings all in the same pizza. So the point is to at least try some different variants. Test out maybe chicken's a home run or something with your brand, and you can do more of that, or just make ads that are more like a supreme pizza, which has like a lot of different stuff, which appeals to a lot of different people. And I think that we like making ads that are longer and robust and have something in there for everyone. We don't really make pepperoni only ads. We kind of make more supreme style ads, and we feel like those have more longevity and are able to unlock more revenue efficiently than some of the other ones. Because I see like some people will take like a trending TikTok sound and turn that into an ad, and that might work really well because it's like salami based, and like the salami people are like, oh my god, that's great, but it burns out quickly, and ultimately doesn't add a ton of new revenue to the business. And how is that?
That was great.
Your commitment to that bit is impressive.
And now I want some pizza.
Okay. That is.
This is what I got out of that one. You want your ad account to look like a supreme pizza, not a pepperoni pizza.
Diversification.
Well, I heard that you want your ad account to look like both.
Okay, maybe that's.
I want to serve supreme pizza, and I also want to serve pepperoni, and I want a variety of ads. I want variety in one ad. I want another ad to specialize because I want to eat up as much of those bar charts as possible.
I think Dave just got his culinary degree there because I got nothing out of this episode, but I like the pizza.
Pizza master.
Exactly.
I was trying to think of an acronym where pizza is the P for pizza.
Yeah.
We'll circle back. Let's come up with some.
If you went to a pizza restaurant and only the top 3 things were on the menu, you'd leave. Even if those were like your favorite, you'd still be like, nah.
You got your pizza higher degree.
I think it's also where, maybe you are a pepperoni person, but you're going to click on the anchovy ad because maybe that's just more interesting. It's not just about the buyer, but it's also about how intriguing the ad is.
Yep.
Right. I agree. And if you take that back to like the ad examples you showed, that lead product, once you have an ad for that lead product, I don't stop, right? Like there's multiple reasons or applications. Like we talked, there was a framing for one of them was a little bit more aging and under eye application framing. There's people that have under eye concerns at all sorts of ages. Like it doesn't have to just be an aging type ad. So you take one ad that says like, it's, that 45, 50-year-old women that are applying this, and that really appeals to people who can relate to that. And then there's another way to do it where you're just talking about bags under your eyes because you're a busy mom or you're a busy whatever, and there's different ways to frame it that will resonate with different people, even though it's just selling the same pizza in a different way.
Great. Rachel, I know you have to go soon, so we're just going to do one last segment, which is the Triple Whale sponsor. And this is hugely important because Creatapalooza is November 2nd and 3rd. And so myself and Rachel and Nikki and Barry is going to be there. And we're going to do an Adtopsy live there. I don't know what that means. I'm sure it'll be a shit show.
I don't know what it means either.
It could be a back alley Adtopsy. Who knows?
Who knows what's going to happen?
But if you're interested in creative at all, it's funny. I'm speaking there, and they made my talk make ugly ads.
That's Barry.
That's Barry's line. So he is not protecting his IP very well.
He's gonna be pissed.
No, that's not what it is at all. But there's a lot of great people. John Coyle, Dar Denny's going to be there. I'm excited. I'm going to talk about, I'm not even sure. I haven't even made the presentation yet, but I think it's generally about why ads die and how to save them.
Love that.
So I think it's only like $100 and you have like 8 meals out of it or something kind of crazy.
It is $500, but a great value for 2 days.
Yeah, okay.
Wasn't even close.
But I think if you DM Alexa or Rabba on Twitter,
there's
they
deals
might.
Out there.
There's deals out there.
I think you just sold it. Dave wants to go. I can tell. Dave, you want to go?
Feel the vibes.
So this was a great episode of Adtopsy. A little bit shorter, trying something out, but a little bit wackier. Who knows if people are going to dig it or not? Dave, tell people where to find you.
You can find me hanging out on Twitter too much. At Dave Recook. It's not too complicated. You can find me on LinkedIn, but you're going to have to dust off the cobwebs of my LinkedIn profile to hit the follow button or whatever it is.
Great. And so one of the things I always forget to do is tell people to like and subscribe. So the one person or the 2 people left who have spent the last hour with us, please, hit the like button. It's a moral obligation at this point.
And go get yourself some pizza.